What's up, guys? It is Double Axes podcast number 2. They didn't yank us off YouTube, so we're back. I'd like to thank everybody for watching last time. We really appreciate it. If you like what you saw or you like what you see in this one, please go to our social media pages. I have a Facebook page, Instagram page, and also like and subscribe to the page on YouTube. So we would really appreciate that. So. We had a pretty late night last night. Fights kind of went on for a long time there. Got in pretty late, but we're both here. May look a little sleepy-eyed, but I know I am. What about you, Billy?
Yeah, I am too. I work third shift, so yeah, it's just the norm to get in late and be up all night. So
yeah. But anyways, what we're going to do today, we're going to break down, in our opinion, kind of what's going to happen with the Mayweather-Macgregor fight. Also going to kind of go into recaps of Fight Night 25 and also the UFC 214 card. Just kind of what we saw, what we took from it. Kind of give you guys an update on how our picks are going so far, and then maybe what we're going to do in the future. So kind of jump right into it here. The last thing that we did on the last podcast was kind of predict what we thought was going to happen for the main event of Fight Night 25, which was the Gastelum-Weidman fight.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, what I saw out of it was exactly what I thought Weidman should do. He played a clean striking game. He took him down, and he did what he had to do to get the fight over with. Other than the one left hand that he took on the feet, which scared the life out of me, and I'm sure every other Weidman fan on planet Earth, I thought he did everything to perfection. I thought it went exactly the way that I thought it should go, exactly the approach that I thought he should have. He proved that he could strike with Gastelum on the feet, but also get him to dominant places on the mat as well, kind of impose his will. Anything else that you kind of took out of that fight?
Pretty much what you went over is the way that I feel about it. That's kind of the way that we broke it down. Even we said that he was probably going to go back to his wrestling roots, and he did, and he just overall controlled the fight. He was just almost too big for Gastelum. Gastelum almost, other than his striking, it was almost like he didn't really know what to do with him. He was just such a big guy, and he couldn't control him. He couldn't control the fight. There's no way he could control him on the ground. It's one of those guys that's came up a weight class, and he met somebody that is a true 185 or even bigger man. So
right.
So
and that being said, Weidman moving forward, I think he should once again, kind of dive into those top 5 fights. Romero's kind of sitting out there still, even though he's calling out Bisping. We all know the Bisping fight's not going to happen now. That might be, with Jacare being gone now, that might be his best option kind of moving forward. And for Gastelum, I think it's time to drop back to 70. He needs to hire a dietitian, do what he has to do to get down back to 170, and I really feel like that's where he's best suited. He's just not big enough. Like we talked about before, his boxing could win fights for him. He could still win fights at 85, but if he wants to make a true run at the title, I feel like 70 is definitely the place for him to be, to be able to try to make that run that he needs to. So
at least have a good attempt, a good run at it. I'm interested to see a Romero-Weidman rematch, because I think Weidman will take him right now with a rematch.
Yeah, it would definitely be exactly what I said with this Gastelum fight. He's going to have a game plan coming in and follow that game plan. And the scary thing is how well Romero kind of defended the shots and in the first fight. And Weidman was able to actually have some success on the feet. Kind of getting started early. So I think he would have to reassess the situation. He would have to get with his coaches and have a really good game plan to win that, because Romero is still dangerous. He definitely didn't look that great in the Whitaker fight, but he's still going to be dangerous moving forward, just because of, he's just such an explosive guy with such a great wrestling pedigree, he's still going to be really dangerous moving forward. So, all right, so that's really the only one that we kind of broke down or have predictions for on Fight Night 25. So we'll jump into the prelims of 214, the Sterling versus Barao fight. To me, Barao was just a shell of himself. He didn't really show any explosiveness, no power. He did get the takedown early round one and was able to kind of control a little bit of the situation, even though some of the judges still gave round one to Sterling. I felt like kind of in the breakdown, I honestly felt like he was going to be a different class of fighter for Sterling, except it didn't play out that way. It was completely the opposite. It felt like Sterling was a different class from him, just a tier up. And, for me, for such a long run from Barao and seeing kind of where he's at now, I don't really know where he goes forward, but I was very underwhelmed by it. It looked like when Sterling got him down in the second round, and which could have been a 10-8, by the way. One judge did give him a 10-8, but the way that he was landing those elbows and stuff from the top, it just seemed to take Barao completely out of the fight. Even in the third, when they started, he wasn't throwing full power shots or anything. It was just kind of just barely kind of touching it out there, and it just seemed like he was just completely out of the fight. I don't know if he was hurt. I don't know exactly what's going on there, but just completely underwhelmed by it. Very impressed by Sterling. He looked great, but I think it's kind of the end of the road for Barao. I think it's two different.
I think it has to be, really, because he here lately he is coming out and not putting on anything like he used to. He was just a hard guy to beat.
10-year streak.
10-year streak. He had a 10-year streak, and just nobody could touch him. And now he finally got touched, and he finally got beaten, and it's like he can't recover from it. I don't know if it's a mind thing, or it's just he just doesn't have it anymore. But Sterling is a young guy and came up and just put on a show and pretty much just outclassed him.
Yeah,
it's just
no question. No question. You got a guy that's moving up and a guy that's at the tail end, obviously.
Maybe on the
and maybe we could be wrong. Maybe Barao just needs a change. Maybe he needs to go to a different camp, get some type of different instructions, something to really just change it and spice it up. I mean, we kind of saw some of the Brazilians that were so dominant for so long, and then they kind of had a rough patch, and then they kind of have a resurgence. Even Shogun, he was so dominant for so long, comes to the UFC, kind of stumbles a little bit, but then wins the title, and then kind of stumbles again, and then it's kind of up and down with him now. But in the John Vellante fight, he really showed some persistence and was able to win that fight. So maybe that's the same for Barao. Maybe a change of scenery, a different coach, something. But nothing that I saw last night indicated that he had any pop, any explosiveness.
It was the same old that we had seen, and that's why I picked him as I was expecting him. I didn't really go into it in the first podcast, but it's the first podcast, so. But the reason why I picked Barao is I thought that he was going to get out of that little funk patch that he was in. And I thought he was going to come in and be a completely different fighter and look like his old self.
Yeah, and a lot of fighters talk about like a title loss hangover, and it seems like his title loss hangover just is continuing to carry on.
It's lasting.
I really thought with, like you said, with the being on the prelims, not any pressure. This is just. I mean, he wasn't even back down at 35. He was trying to move back down there, and so I really thought he would showcase himself and kind of put himself right back in the mix at 35. But man, not the case at all.
Yeah,
so.
For sure.
All right, so the Lamas versus Knight fight. I literally put my notes how I thought it would go. ... Kinda, because I really thought that. That Lamas was going to put it on him, but man, Knight, just like you said, dude, that guy was tough. My gosh.
That's why every Jason Knight fight looks just like what you saw on that prelim. He just gets hit, and it's like it wakes him up, and he just stands there, and he either comes at you, or last night he was overwhelmed, but. Usually he will take that punishment and just keep moving forward, and it's scary, and it really takes his opponent out of the.
It's kind of like Gaethje.
Yeah.
You know, I saw a lot of that in him, but the only problem was when he was getting hit, he wasn't giving anything back. And then towards the end of that round, I was like, holy crap, Lamas is going to punch himself out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was winging punches, putting everything in there, and he was slowing down. I was like, man, you know, my pick's not looking so good right now. I was like, Billy's going to be right here. And, you know, Lamas was able to finish it off. But, man, I was very impressed with Knight, you know, kind of sustaining all that and making it through until the end there. But, golly, I mean, I really thought that I was like, man, Billy's going to be right. He's going to turn in full zombie mode. Next thing you know, Lamas is going to be tired and he's going to be beating on him. I'll be like, how did we get here?
That's usually how it goes with this fight.
I just think, you know, hopefully Knight comes back and he learns something from this and maybe changes up his style a little bit and doesn't try to take as much punishment. But Lamas has just been up the top for so long. I feel like he's still very hungry. And, you know, I feel like that made the difference. He just had more experience. He looked to be the more powerful fighter, and he was able to pull it off. Which, that's kind of, like I said, kind of how I thought it was going to go. I didn't expect it to be such a slugfest early, and then Lamas just throwing so many punches there that were landing. And Knight was trying to throw back. He just wasn't able to be effective in it.
He was out of the fight.
Yeah,
he was on wobbly legs from the get-go, and just stood there and took it, though.
Some of those punches, though, man, I don't know how his head stayed on his shoulder, much less he stayed standing, but he did. So, kudos to you for that. But you know, that's kind of how I thought I'd go, and I hope to see both of them. I hope Lamas kind of moves up, and I hope Knight kind of reestablishes himself because he kind of won me over a little bit with that. I was like, man, that's
he does put on entertaining fights, and they are really fun to watch, and that's why I like him.
Yeah, Hopefully, he changes up a little bit. Not too much punishment. Don't like to see that. So. Jumping into the main card, I got a lot of I told you so's for this last night. I still, my eyes and my mind aren't synced together. I still cannot figure out Ozdemir. He hits the Misha guy with the little baby hook and puts him out. I'm like, what's going on? And then he hits Manuel last night with, you know, it was kind of a string of punches. I don't know what Manuel was doing as far as trying to get in the clinch with him. That wasn't his game. I thought he would stay on the outside, try to be more explosive, get something off that hurt him, and put him away. But Ozdemir kind of, you know, clinched him up, threw a couple uppercuts, one left hook, freaking launched him in the air. His head bounced off the mat, and then he comes down with another hit. I mean, it was done.
Switzerland is putting out some Superman guys.
He's got full-on dad bod.
Yeah,
everything.
He walked in there and his face was all just relaxed and had a dad bod, and I was like,
you kind of had the Fedor comparison.
Yeah,
to him. But at least with Fedor, when you see with Fedor, when you see the punches that are ripped so hard, you see them hit and you hear the impact, you're like, okay, I get it.
Yeah,
Ozdemir, man. He hits people and they just fall, and I'm like, it just.
How did that
there's
happen?
No sound. There's no explosiveness. It's slow. It's deliberate. I'm like, I can't make my mind wrap. I just can't wrap my mind around it.
It's like Rampage Jackson said. You envision your fist going through somebody's head when you're hitting them, and I guess that's what it is. They're just following through like crazy.
He's got the touch of death. That's for sure. I mean. I don't know what's going on. I'm still like I don't even know what to put in my notes. I can't even figure it out.
But there was a lot of when Manuel dropped. There was a lot of
no power, huh?
No power. What just happened?
And I was like, Billy, I don't know what to say, man. I don't know how that just happened. I mean, I saw the replay in slow motion, and you can kind of see the left hook hit perfectly behind the ear, but still, I mean, it's not like it's overimposing. Forceful punch. It's just
those uppercuts don't even look like they really landed flush. They almost look like they were glancing little shots.
Yeah, all I can say to Ozdemir is good luck with Gus or John Jones.
Yeah, that's
good luck with those guys.
Really, both of them. We talked about that last podcast. Both of them are kind of like, we're going to plateau here. There's nothing.
We'll kind of get into the top of the 205-pound division later, but all I can say is good luck with the top two guys because, at this point, you have no evidence to down him. I mean, maybe he touches them, they just fall. I mean, I don't know.
If Ozdemir touches John Jones and drops him, I don't know what I'll do.
Yeah. I mean, I would be like, don't doubt this guy anymore. He's got the touch of death.
Swiss Superman.
All right, so really the fight that I feel like we broke down the best was Cerrone versus Lawler. You know, kind of in the front end, I feel like we had enough evidence and enough footage of both of them to kind of break it down accurately how we thought it would go, but it really didn't go that way.
No,
I was
surprising.
Yeah, I felt like with that pick, we broke it down the best, but the outcome of it wasn't that way.
It was completely
I was
opposite.
very impressed by Cerrone. I was amazed at how big he looked compared to Robbie Lawler. You know, rewatched the first podcast this morning to try to kind of prep for everything, and I was talking about how much bigger that I thought that he would be than Lawler. But you know, seeing them side by side at their fight weight, Cerrone looked bigger. I mean, he looked taller. He looked just as muscular.
More like a natural 170.
Yeah. So I might have to reassess my comments. Although I still think that 155 is the best place for him to win a title.
Yeah.
I feel like he definitely can be an established fighter at 170, but I think he's going to kind of run into these problems continuously at 170. The outcome of it, I agreed with it. I thought that Lawler won round 1 and 3. It was kind of the way that I thought it would be, except the punches and stuff didn't have the effect on Cowboy really the way that I thought it would. I think in the third round, he was able to use some body shots and some kicks, which I thought it would be the boxing that would be the difference.
Yeah.
But it was really the kicks in the third round that I felt like kind of hurt Cerrone to the body. And, you know, Robbie was just so reserved that even in the moment that we all could see that Cowboy kind of dropped the hand, it's kind of become the norm for him. You know, against Pettis, against Dos Anjos, he gets hit to the body. You see the right hand drop. You see the look on his face. It wasn't as pronounced this time as it was with those other fights, but you kind of can tell when Cowboy's hurt and he's moving back, and Robbie didn't pounce on him. You know, he showed a lot of patience. I'm not sure if that was a right or wrong decision. He got the win. I think he would have been kicking himself if he'd lost a decision or whatever, or if Cowboy had came back and hit him with something catastrophic in the end. But, you know, I really did agree with the decision. I was very impressed by Cerrone. I think that there's a lot of captivating fights for Cerrone, either at 155 or 170. I feel like if he's going to make a run, it needs to be at 55. If he just wants to get something to stay active, he can kind of move up and down, you know, kind of like Benson Henderson did in the past. So it's really whatever he wants to do. For Lawler, I think Dana hit the nail on the head. You know, we now know that GSP versus Bisping is going to happen, so we'll kind of jump into that later. But I really think that Woodley versus Lawler is the next, you know, rational fight to make. I really feel like it's something that's kind of got to tell us what's going on up there. It's kind of a muddled situation at 70 right now. I feel like the GSP versus Bisping fight is going to throw both divisions into kind of some type of purgatory where nobody can really get ahead, nobody gets a title shot, they don't know what the timeline's going to be, everything like that. So I really feel like the Woodley versus Lawler fight is the one that I want to see, because I think that Lawler's going to make him fight. I mean, Lawler may lose again, but there's not going to be anything like we saw last night. So
what really surprised me about that fight is it seemed like it was Robbie's game plan to just go right out the gate and just start nailing, punting, just pressuring him with punches and clinches, dirty boxing. And he threw everything but the kitchen sink at Cerrone, and Cerrone just stood there and just took it.
Took it like a champ.
And I think that's really surprised Robbie. Second round, Cowboy comes in and really surprises Robbie with some kicks and some really good movement, really good head movement, and a little bit of boxing.
Yeah, Cerrone was definitely on his game round two. It was everything that we said he needed to do. He wasn't trying to knock him out with one shot. He was trying to use combinations, kicks.
Yeah, he was outworking.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's how that happened. And then the third round, Robbie comes back out, and his corner says, "Well, we had a game plan at first, and this guy's tough, and you're going to have to win this round." And Robbie went out there and won the round, I think.
And I think it's, you know, I mentioned it last night, but it's something really refreshing to hear a corner tell you exactly what you need to do. And Robbie listened so well. You know, in the Rory fight, they said basically you need to go out here and finish him, and that's exactly what he did. So you know, to have a corner that's that honest with you, you know, that's really helpful. But you know, like I said, I feel like he really did what he had to do in the third round. So.
Yeah, he won the fight in the third round
for sure.
But it was impressive, and I was surprised by Cowboy able to take those punches from Robbie and keep standing there, because there's a lot of people that if they got hit with those punches and got pressured by Robbie like that in the first round, they would have just fell to the ground and got TKO'd.
Yeah, I think it really goes to show you that all of the experts were really right about Cerrone jumping back in the ring too soon after the Matt Brown fight, because you know he wasn't himself in the Masvidal fight. He got hit, he got hurt, and it was just kind of a little bit unusual Cowboy performance. And I think that just goes to show you the value of rest. You know, we all love Cowboy for his willingness to jump in the fights and stuff like that, but for himself and to be able to make a legitimate run at any title in any division, he's really going to have to start protecting himself and not put him in these situations because that really derailed his run altogether. I mean,
yeah, his momentum just went.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would totally be interested in seeing, and I think that's the only matchup you can really do is Lawler and Woodley.
Yeah. And for Cerrone, I believe that if he drops down to 55, he can make a legitimate run at the title. I know that there's still guys in there that he's lost to and whatever it may be, but you know, like even his loss to Dos Anjos. I mean, Dos Anjos is not the same guy. Now he's back up to 170. So you know, maybe you make that fight at 70. I don't know. Maybe you make the Masvidal rematch. I don't know. To me, I no longer care at this point of Cowboy's career about fun fights or money fights or anything. I just want to see the dude make the run that I think he's capable of making, and I think that that's at 55, personally.
Yeah, I totally agree.
But we'll see how it plays out, and I guess we'll probably break it down whenever it happens. So, Cyborg versus Evinger. I really don't know what to say about this that we didn't say in the breakdown. I mean, Cyborg just put it on her. I was very impressed with Evinger. She might have been the most impressive fighter of the night. She took almost everything that Cyborg gave her. I mean, obviously Cyborg was able to finish her, but it wasn't like what I thought it would be. It wasn't just her running in and trucking her. It was over a long time. Cyborg picked her shots. She kind of picked her apart. Evinger took everything. She had a nasty overhand right that she kept throwing, and I was like, man, if that hit Cyborg, it could hurt her. And she landed a couple punches, nothing that put Cyborg in any type of danger though. But it was a much more competitive fight than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Cyborg looked great. You know, all of her combinations landed. She showed great patience, and then was finally able to get her out of there and get her well-deserved 145-pound title.
Yeah, I was really impressed with Evinger on this fight because she stood there and took everything that Cyborg had, and just kept on. She was throwing punches. She didn't really land very much, but she was throwing them, and it was kind of almost seemed like it was throwing Cyborg off because she probably didn't expect her to be that tough, and Cyborg you just can't. That goes to show you that. Cyborg can pick people apart, and she can go into deeper rounds, and she can still fight smart. She fought really smart. She didn't go in there like just trying to put pressure on her and clinch her and maybe get herself caught. She picked her apart, like you said.
It shows the depth of her game.
Yeah.
Because not only can she just run over people, but she can also stay on the outside, pick her shots, put together combinations that are going to get somebody that has a very tough chin. I mean, this is a 135-pound fighter come up taking punches from Cyborg. There's punches that were landing there last night and leg kicks that I wouldn't want nothing to do with from Cyborg. I mean, she's a nasty fighter, and this girl took it all.
Yeah.
She was trying to take her down. She was trying to land the overhand right. And it just shows, you know, Cyborg showed good takedown defense. She got up whenever she was taken down right away. I was almost dumbfounded by this, but when I got home last night, I couldn't sleep, just kind of thinking about everything, thinking about what I was going to say today. I was on Twitter, and Evinger was apologizing. I was like, get out of town. You have nothing to apologize for. I was blown away by that. Yeah. I mean, I understand she's disappointed she just lost title fight and everything like that, but to be such a big underdog, to have every person picking fights other than her team say, you know, Cyborg is going to crush her. And to me, Cyborg didn't crush her. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, she was outclassed by Cyborg, but I think we all had in our minds Cyborg's going to come in there, get her out first round, 30 seconds, 1 minute.
Wrecking machine.
Yeah, and there's nothing to apologize for. She took everything with the kitchen sink. She finally got finished. Yeah, it sucks. I mean, and I understand what she's saying, but I feel like this is only going to help her moving forward because she's going to drop down to 35. People are going to know who she is now because she fought for the title.
She showed her toughness.
Yeah, and people are going to be like, that's that tough chick that Cyborg threw everything in.
Yeah.
And she, this is kind of going to be one of those fights. It's not a great way to make your name. I'm sure she much would rather make her name by beating Cyborg, but it is what it is.
Killer. Yeah.
And so, you got Evinger, who's going to move down to 35 now and probably get some bigger marquee fights than she would have from before.
Yeah.
And you got Cyborg moving forward, and they're just like dying for a Holly Holm fight with that. So I guess we'll have to see that plays out because I really don't know who else Cyborg would fight at 45 at this point.
It's all her. That's her division, like you said.
Yeah. I think Holly Holm's the only matchup to make, and it could definitely be a very interesting matchup.
For sure.
Probably the only matchup, the only person is gonna want to stand with Cyborg. All of the above. I mean, and I'll just go ahead and say right now, you're kind of talking about Ozemir if you put Jones on his butt. If Holly Holm is able to decapitate not only Ronda Rousey but then Cyborg too, her legacy will be cemented forever.
The queen.
She's a big woman.
The queen bee.
So. All right, so another fight that I have no idea what to say about, Woodley versus Maya. I feel like I could have fell asleep in the fight. I feel like it robbed not only the crowd, but like we had a bunch of people watching the fights with us. It robbed me of my energy. I feel like there was ladies with us. They were falling asleep. I mean, I just feel like I feel like I was robbed. I don't know what I was watching. Woodley's such an explosive fighter. The first punch he hit Maya with closed Maya's eye. And then he floored him in the second and third round. Obviously had a big power discrepancy with him and Maya, and he just would not move forward and put the fight away. I understand he hit Maya. Maya went down. He didn't want to get on the ground with him, but even when Maya stood up, he looked like he just had 12 shots at the local pub. He was just kind of woozy still. Yeah. It's like, man, just jump on him and finish it. I understand you don't want to play the jiu-jitsu game, but you're a wrestler. Don't you think if this dude hits his butt and he's hurt and he lands a couple shots, it might be over with? Everybody stops bugging you about finishing fights. Everybody stops bugging you about performances. You get the GSP fight. I mean, there's just so many more things that go with pressuring. And even if you wanted to pressure him on the feet and put together combinations, Maya wasn't anywhere close to a takedown. I thought that Woodley might get tired.
What, 0 for 23 on takedowns or something like that?
23, 24.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. Like you said in the first round, you said there's no way. He's too fast. He's too strong. There's no way that Maya can get him down. And I agreed with it, in the first round. But I thought as the rounds went on, Woodley got a little bit more fatigued. There was a chance that Maya could somehow put a combination together and get in, but all Maya was doing was throwing the straight left, trying to get in, and he just saw it coming every time. Just hit the sprawl, circled out of it, got his underhooks, whatever he had to do. But, I mean, it wasn't even close. And I just can't understand, if you have that kind of confidence in your takedown defense, he's not even close to it. I can't understand why you wouldn't pressure him. Why would you not go for his head?
Yeah, I agree.
Dude couldn't see out of one eye. The second eye was closing.
His left eye was puffed up and closed, and his right eye had a cut under it and above it, I believe, a small cut. So, but yeah, this fight was as interesting as watching paint dry, and it's not a fight for fans, like casual fans to watch.
I don't know. It's not a fight for anybody.
Yeah,
it's not a fight for Maya. It's not a fight for Woodley. It's not a fight for the fans. It's not a fight for the UFC. It's not. It doesn't. No one any good.
Yeah.
No one.
I think Maya was scared that he was going to get knocked out if he got close, and Woodley was scared that if he did get close and try to throw some punches that he was going to get taken down. So it was like a stalemate. They just stood there and kind of pumped a jab a couple times, and that was about it, really. And it was depressing.
I don't remember being that bored since Dan Severn and Ken Shamrock at the rematch. I mean, I just was. And, I had some interaction on Facebook before I went over there and watched the fights, and somebody said that Woodley would win by decision. I was like, no way, dude. Woodley's going to put this guy away. And then he lands that bomb in the second round, and I was like, it's going to happen. And, you know, you hit round 3, round 4, round 5, and it almost became very Mayweather-esque to me. Like, he was doing just enough to win the round, and then he was running and doing it.
Yeah.
Even in the end, he kind of did a shuffle that reminded me exactly of Mayweather. And I'm like, what are you doing, man? Like, you're too talented of a guy to not be putting the finish on these guys. And he always wants to make some type of excuse for not being pushed in the welterweight division. I mean, you watch this highlight reel and you're like, man, this dude should be.
Oh yeah, he looks like a beast.
Yeah, and then you watch this fight, and maybe it's the curse of the 170-pound title. GSP finished everything, and then he gets the title, and the next thing you know, he's winning decision after decision. Yeah. So I mean, maybe it's the curse of the 170-pound title. I don't know what's going on, but all I know is that Woodley needs to take it upon himself as an investment to not only himself and the UFC and everything else, but just go in there and fight to his full potential. I think he's robbing himself. I think he's robbing his fans because he had the potential to put that fight away easy, and for whatever reason, just decided not to.
You watch tape on the guy that you're fighting. You train for the guy that you're fighting, and then when it comes fight night, you should be fighting the guy that you're fighting. You shouldn't be just playing the cautious. I'm just going to throw 2 more punches to his 1 and maybe win the round, and it'd be a decision.
Especially when the guy that you're fighting that is such a ground tactician isn't even getting close on his takedowns. Yeah. There's no danger to him whatsoever.
And his stand-up, it's 2 different worlds on stand-up between those two. Woodley's got insane boxing, and he's got 2 bombs, and he didn't use them. And he hasn't been using them really. He used them against Wonder Boy a little bit, but
it's inexplicable, and it cost him as much money as it. To me, it cost him as much money as doing something dirty, like getting in some type of trouble to not be able to fight, because he's lost out on a super fight now. They were dead set on making GSP versus Woodley despite Bisping and GSP's wishes, but that fight was so bad that Dana said, nope, not getting GSP. He said, I'm going to put Bisping in there because at least Bisping will fight. And that's a shame.
Mm-hmm.
I don't personally, we'll break into it. I don't want to run anything with the GSP Bisping thing, but, I think that's best case scenario for Woodley. I think to get that super fight to kind of cement his legacy, it's so much more of a money fight. And now, I don't know what they do with him other than the Lawler fight. And the Lawler fight isn't going to be headlining anything because Dana doesn't trust him to make it interesting.
Yeah, they're just going to have to give him another 170-pounder to defend against. And he's going to watch tape on him and train for him, and then he's going to pump out 3 more jabs compared to their 1. So.
Yeah, I don't know. But I really hope that I know that fighters should never listen to fans. It could get them hurt. It could get them to lose their titles and stuff like that. But he has so much potential. He has such a good arsenal that he really needs to figure out what he's got to do to kind of step it up, or he is going to become the Mayweather of UFC. And we've really never had that.
Yeah.
We talked about the GSP decisions, and we were texting back and forth about it last night. I was like, GSP has landed more significant strikes than anybody in the history of the UFC. GSP is hitting jabs and stuff, and then he's taking you down, and he's landing stuff on top. Woodley was doing nothing.
Yeah.
He wasn't even putting combinations together, really.
It was, in general, a pathetic fight to watch. And like he said, it's the co-main event. And going into the main event, everybody was wanting to be all pumped and hyped because they saw something special. And everybody in the room was just sitting there like...
It completely zapped my energy. I got up and played pool in the middle of it. Yeah. And that was just to get up and move around.
I quit watching the fight and watched him play pool.
I could see Billy doing math on why I was screwing up on my pool shots. And that should never be the case in a title fight.
I was wondering why he was going for the 6 ball when he should have been going for the 3 ball, instead of wondering why Woodley wasn't going for something in the fight.
Sad state of affairs. So
we admit it.
All right. So... DC versus Jones. It's weird to say that this fight left me doing soul searching. I got home and I felt like I was head kicked.
Yeah.
And somebody had commented on our first podcast, kind of saying that it was just a heart pick to pick DC, and I said that, and maybe heart pick was the wrong word, maybe gut pick was better.
Yeah.
But I sat up all night thinking about this for hours, and kind of what I came up with was this a biased pick for me because of my great disdain for Jones? And kind of what I came up with was no, because Jones had not shown this in the OSP fight. Cormier had stayed active. Nobody on planet Earth, other than the people around John Jones, knew the actual truth of what he looked like in the ring. And I felt like this was the only time for DC to beat Jones. I even said in the first podcast, if you beat Jones, get out of the sport. You don't want to rematch him. You don't want this guy to get time in the gym, to get the ring rust off, and to come back. And if anybody thought that, I would love to meet the person that could have predicted that John Jones was going to come out this way, because this is a John Jones that we have not really seen before. It was split basically going into the third. I felt like that DC could have stole the first round with his kind of. I feel like he did more damage with his punches and his combinations. I feel like Jones had the volume, especially very early in the round. He came out with a lot higher volume, and that didn't allow DC to get his game plan, which basically DC had been saying all week long. I'm going to come out, I'm going to come across, and I'm going to take control of the fight early to let him know that things have changed, and that's not what happened. I think Jones knew this after that, and I think he's like, okay, I'm going to take him out of my game plan by throwing all these kicks, volume strikes, and stuff like that. Going in the second, Jones started that round exactly the same. A lot of volume. I feel like Jones was landing very clean punches, more clean than I've seen him land. Not only from the southpaw stance, but when he switched back to right hand, he was landing very clean punches from that as well. I was very impressed with the leaps and bounds that his boxing had made. Going into the second, he had tried a couple kicks. He was landing that awful, whatever you want to call it, the knee kick.
A teep kick.
Yeah, teep kick. Whatever I've heard it being called about a million things, but he was still landing that. I feel like Cormier had figured out exactly what it was doing. As soon as his leg came back, he was kicking that leg, so the full weight was on it. He was being effective with that leg kick, and then that kind of opened him up for the combinations. He hit him with some good stuff in the clinch, backed him up, was hitting with some good combinations on his hands. He was talking to him. I feel like he was really in the fight, and I feel like he definitely won that second round. Two of the three judges scored the second round for DC. One of them still gave it to Jones, and I can just assume it was on volume alone. So then going into the third, I haven't seen any evidence that would say that John Jones could finish a fight that emphatic the way that he did. He landed the head kick, he chased him, he smelled the blood, and he put him away. And that's really a different John Jones than what we've seen. And that's finishing DC, who has never been finished before at heavyweight or light heavyweight. He even took a bomb from Rumble, and obviously a head kick and punches far different, but he hit him with the head kick, he chased him down, he pinned him against the cage and was just landing bombs. And I felt like he took a couple too many, but I feel like that's the ending that we needed. Either one way or the other, I feel like that was the ending we needed. So to the bias comment, I went with my gut. I felt like DC was a hotter fighter at the time. I didn't know where Jones's head was going to be, and to me, that was the best John Jones that I've ever seen.
I agree. And with that biased comment, if you think that we picked it by heart, it was just, that was, like we said last podcast, that's the best time that DC, the biggest chance that DC had against John Jones. Ever.
Yeah.
And probably the best chance that anybody's ever had against John
Jones.
And
now kind of looking back at it, we might have been wrong, though, because it might have been the OSP fight. He was bodybuilding and stuff at the time. He was doing a lot of powerlifting. And this time he was much thinner, much faster.
He was his old self.
I did say, I watched it today. I did say it was a heart pick, but I guess what I was trying to say was a gut pick. I just felt in my gut that karma was going to come to fruition and that DC was going to be able to get him.
And I'd like to meet whoever picked that John Jones would head kick DC in the third round and TKO him, because that's just too hard of a too strict of a prediction to make, and something that's totally unexpected. And that's the fight game. You make picks based off of what you've seen the fighter do before, and that's why we made that pick. And we made the pick based off of Jones versus OSP. It's a whole different fighter, but he was out of the game for over a year, came back, looked nervous, looked anxious, and didn't perform. And DC's been in there, like he said, constantly performing, and we figured DC had a better chance, and that's why we picked him.
I thought that this fight would bring out the best in DC, and I feel like that Jones would still be in some type of limbo, and instead, I'd say that probably was the best of DC because he had a much better game plan. He was much calmer, but the problem is that it brought out the best John Jones as well.
Yeah.
And that John Jones, I said in the last one I thought Gus could be either one of them. I'm going to step back from that pick because that John Jones that was in there, he's probably the most talented guy to ever step into the octagon. And if his head is there and he doesn't get himself into any trouble, it's a very, very insurmountable thing to try to get past him. And now, he calls out Brock, and I don't understand that, man. I can't for the life of me understand it. It's Brock's retired. He has a chance to kind of move forward, but maybe that's what he needs. Maybe he needs these big feeling matchups. Maybe he doesn't really want to get into war again with Gustafsson. I don't know what it is, but he's the most talented guy to ever step foot in there. I said he was a legend. I said he was the best light heavyweight ever last podcast. Obviously I still stand that. And I feel like he's getting into the greatest of all time conversation because he's the only one that can say, okay, champion, beat all those guys. And, with Anderson, you look at his list, there's not a lot of champions there. Fedor's list is just fraught with champions of everything. And so now you're kind of getting to the John Jones Fedor, who's the greatest of all time. And, if Jones can continue this Jones and not get himself into trouble and kind of continue the momentum that he has, I feel like that it's going to be a scary thought for anybody to touch him, especially since with DC being beat. And in my heart, I feel like DC should retire. I feel like he took a lot of punishment that fight. I don't know if he could ever be the same after coming back from 2 losses to Jones.
Yeah.
I don't see what like I said last time, if he loses, I don't see anything else for him to do. He should say, I had a great career. Is he a better light heavyweight than Chuck? I don't know. That's hard to say. But he's definitely in the top 2, 3, 4 of best light heavyweights of all time. Randy never gets any credit for the things he did. But he should. And so, you're right there at the top of the greatest light heavyweights of all time. You have the championship at heavyweight. I don't know what else there is for him to do. I think it's time to walk away.
Yeah, he's gonna have to. There's nothing else left for him.
Yeah.
The only thing else that they could do is just put him against just some other 205ers and.
But why?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's pointless.
Yeah. I don't want to see a third fight with John Jones. I don't know if I could ever. In the first DC fight, I watched it. I thought DC had a chance. I was the only one in the room cheering for DC. And, DC won maybe 2 rounds of that fight. John Jones was the better fighter. I thought that DC coming into this fight could do something different. I thought he could bring something different to the table, being his best. John Jones kind of being in limbo for 3 years. He wouldn't be at his best. I thought DC could beat him with all of the emotional, everything and things attached, and he couldn't. I don't want to see the fight the third time, and that's hard for me to say because at this point, outside of Gustafsson, there's really no compelling matchups. And I feel like Jones needed Cormier as much as Cormier needed Jones.
Yeah, they bring the best out of each other, and the rivalry will do that. It brings the best out of each guy. You're determined to beat that guy and make him look bad, and Jones has done that to DC twice. And
well, I don't know how bad he made him look the first time, but last night was bad.
Last night was really bad.
I was gutted. I felt like I got head kicked. I felt so bad for Cormier, because it wasn't bad enough that he got knocked out.
It hit him hard.
But he got knocked out. He got up. He really didn't know what was going on. He was crying in the ring. People were taking pictures of it. There's already memes up, and then you kind of got. I'm not mad at Joe for interviewing him. I don't see any reason to be. They did it for years and years and years. He was obviously cognitive enough to say that he thought the fight was going well. He wasn't really sure what he got hit with, which is understandable. I didn't see any real long-lasting harm in that part of it. But I just feel like it was time for DC to go. I mean, he like you said, he's got a great career as an analyst ahead of him.
Oh yeah.
There's nothing really left for him to do in the sport, even at heavyweight. He, with Kane always kind of being out there, they're obviously never going to fight each other. I mean, I just feel like it's time to go, and I feel like I'm really interested to see where Jones goes now, because after that first, I was kind of forgot this part, but after the first DC fight, I said I'll never pick against Jones again, and then everything happened with Jones, the whole roller coaster, and I was like, man,
something's got to give.
Yeah, how do you go with that guy again? How do you go with that guy? How can you trust him to put on a performance like he did last night? And I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if you can trust him moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, something else can happen.
Yeah, and without DC, is he preparing? Is another OSP fight? Did it really take DC and only DC to get him where he needs to be? Is Brock going to do it?
Yeah, it's good questions, and it's good questions that, I mean, they're not really an answer to.
There's nothing that's going to answer that, and there's nobody that can predict what's happened. There's nobody that can say with 99% certainty that John Jones is going to win every fight, because nobody knows which John Jones is going to show up. If the John Jones that showed up last night shows up at every fight moving forward, he's going to be the greatest of all time. He's going to break all kinds of records. And, he's going to be somebody that we talk about in the sport of MMA like we do Michael Jordan or whoever else. He's already a legend.
Yeah, well,
but he can get to a different stratosphere.
Untouchable.
A different stratosphere that we can even imagine right now.
If somebody thinks that they can pick John Jones for every fight and him never take a loss, I got news for you. Muhammad Ali took losses. Mike Tyson took losses. Anderson Silva took losses. And that's
Fedor took losses.
Fedor took losses.
But if he's at the same time, if he's smart about it, he can keep. He's only 30 years old. He can keep going. He can get out of it at 35. But is he going to stay motivated and stay out of trouble? That's the best question.
And stay away from drugs.
And I'm not sure that I just don't understand. I would watch the Brock fight. Let's not get crazy. I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna hope Brock gets a hold of him. I want to see what happens. But I think Jones will stay on the outside. I think he would pick him apart.
Oh, he'd kick his knee.
I think that Brock would be so far away on the shots from the range and everything else that it wouldn't be funny. Now, if Brock gets a hold of him, he gets him down, he gets him pinned against the cage. We'll see how good Jones' chin is then.
We'll see if there's 47 hammer fists in a minute.
Yeah. But that's a lot of ifs there, And for me, for Jones right now, that's definitely a super fight. If you really want a super fight, because Brock's got 6 months left or something like that. Fight Gus first.
Yeah.
Fight Gus first. Prove that you're back. Give us as the fans the confident enough to put our money down on the table, to do podcasts. I mean, just think if we did a UFC 200 podcast. I mean, we're kind of getting into this now, but think if we did that. I mean, you got 2 days before the fight, he tests positive.
Yeah.
Give us a reason to believe in you again, as far as moving forward, that you're going to do the right things and that you're going to stay focused and you're going to be able to be what we all think you can be. I don't even like him, but I know what he can be. I see how talented he is. My eyes don't lie to me. I get it all. So, fight Gustafsson. Prove that you're back.
Yeah.
That
you're out of the.
Yeah. It wasn't just DC that got you there. I mean, because there was people that said that they thought that John Jones lost the first Gustafsson fight. So that should be enough to get him pumped up. Yeah. Take the Gustafsson fight.
Prove yourself.
Wait until Brock comes out of suspension, and then you got a super fight. You've got a guy that has came back, won the title, defended the title, reestablished the faith with all the fans, with Dana and everything else, and then you get the Brock fight, and then you got to hope that Brock doesn't do something silly and inject something or whatever. But let's not forget, they both tested for the same things. So it's not like John Jones is innocent. It's not like Brock is innocent. I mean, so let's reestablish our faith in both of these guys. Let Brock come back in the USADA testing pool, prove that he's clean, prove that Jones can stay on the straight and narrow, and I'll give you more than $60 to watch that fight. I'll give you $75 if you want. That's a super fight at that point in time. So, hopefully that's what happens. Hopefully Jones stays on the straight and narrow, and hopefully somebody comes that is the next DC, because I can't see it right now. Gus is definitely a very compelling matchup, but it's not going to bring the kind of controversy and rivalry that it did with Jones.
Yeah, Gus is the only one that might have a chance against John Jones right now. The John Jones from last night, because we've seen Gus do some things that's pretty impressive just as well. So that's the only guy in the 205 division that seems like he could hold a candle to John Jones right now. If John Jones stays
one of
straight.
two guys on the face of the planet to take John Jones down. There's lots of interesting factors.
Yeah.
So, all right. So that kind of concludes all of our recaps on everything. So we'll try to kind of come into the May versus Mac breakdown now. So, I mean, obviously everybody's got their opinion. Everybody wants to put it out there, and we feel like we should as well, because we're coming from the MMA side of things. You got all the boxing guys that seem to be getting all the airtime on everything. You don't have really any of the MMA guys, and when the MMA guys get on there, they're kind of sheepish towards everything. So basically, the way that I'm going to work this, I'm going to kind of give what I think that Floyd is going to have to do to win, what I think that Conor has to do to win, and then I'll pitch it over to you. I'll let you do the same, and then we'll kind of go down. I'm not a big fan of making a prediction in this fight. I'll tell you how I think it could end both ways.
Yeah.
And I think that we should both. There's just too many different scenarios here. So, we'll kind of give our what we think is going to happen, and then we'll kind of go from there. So obviously Floyd. I mean, you really don't have to say much about Floyd. He needs to be Floyd. He needs to run.
Yeah.
And he needs to stay on the outside, work his defense, land his 1-2 shot combinations, and work the ring, do what he's always done. That's the only way that I can really see him winning this is by winning more rounds than Conor. All these guys saying that Floyd is going to knock Conor out, and Floyd making these predictions. To me, that's just silly talk. I mean, Conor's taking shots from guys that are just as big and bigger. I mean, you're talking about he's been fighting at 55 and 70 for the last couple of years now. So he's taking 4-ounce glove shots from guys that are a lot bigger than Floyd. Floyd's 40 years old. He's had a plethora of hand issues. They're using heavier gloves than typical for this fight. And I just don't see any other way for Floyd to... Well, I guess that's not true. So I guess Floyd using his combinations, moving, and playing his defense game. If he's able to get Conor tired, I can see some type of scenario where Floyd can string enough punches together and being able to TKO Conor. But that's as far reaching as I can get.
Yeah.
I don't see any type of one punch scenario, even 2 or 3 punches. I think it would be a string of punches later rounds when Conor gets tired from moving, whatever it may be. Because there are some big differences from MMA to boxing, and it's definitely going to be in Mayweather's favor as far as the movement goes, as far as the defense and everything like that. He's going to know every nook and cranny. He's going to know exactly what he wants to do as far as what he thinks he needs to do to win this fight, and he's going to work his head movement, work his defense, and just try to land the pot shots from the outside, with Conor coming in or whatever it may be, and just trying to win these rounds. So that's my opinion on Floyd. Is that kind of what you're thinking as well?
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. It's Floyd's world. The way that I see him, he's just going to outpoint him. He's going to outpoint him and get a decision victory, and he's going to do his defense that he always does, and the movement, and make Conor reach out there for him and try to get him, and he's going to be able to glance all those blows off of his shoulder and play his defense, and that's the only way I see it. I don't even like. You brought up the TKO. That's a good possibility, but
I don't know if it's a good possibility. I don't even think it's a good possibility. I think that's the only scenario that Floyd's able to finish in.
It's a later on scenario that might happen. It's just.
But that's assuming that Floyd is in tip-top shape and that he's able to sustain the movement and everything that he's going to need to sustain, because he's been gone for a long time. He's 40 years old. I saw the All Access Showtime thing. He looked very soft in the midsection. So I don't know how hard he's been training lately. I know he still trains basically daily from what they say. Whether what they say and what actually happens is true. but he's going to have the cardio to sustain it as well.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the shoulder roll and stuff, I'm not sure how much that plays into this. I haven't seen a lot of shoulder roll stuff with him against southpaws. It could definitely play a factor if Conor switches stances. But, the fight that sticks out to me, I don't pay for Mayweather fights. I'm not going to lie to you. I'll watch the replay or whatever. He's kind of like Woodley. I'm not going to pay for a guy to go in there to try to win a decision. It's just not my game. He finished Victor Ortiz. That was the last guy he finished. That was kind of a... Victor Ortiz did something dirty, and then he comes back and does something dirty. It's a very weird scenario.
Yeah.
But the Canelo fight sticks out the most to me. That's the one that I paid for. Canelo, I thought, could go in there and put him away, and he did everything perfect to not allow Canelo to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And he used that shoulder roll to a T. Canelo was throwing the bomb rights, and he was tucking that shoulder in, and it was hitting and deflecting up. I mean, it's perfect. Whether that comes into play against Conor, maybe from the traditional stance, but from southpaw stance, I'm not really sure how he would use that. It's not going to come into play. I don't know if I've really seen him use it for jabs. I don't know why he would. I would just assume that he would probably use head movement and stuff like that for his jabs.
The reason I brought that up is because Conor switches stances, and I think that he might do that to try to mess with Floyd, and then that's when the shoulder roll is going to come into play. But it's overall defense of Floyd. He's just a more defensive fighter than anything, it seems, because people come in and put pressure, and then he kind of counters them with a couple punch combinations, and that's just how it usually goes.
Yeah. Okay, so the Conor side of it, we'll kind of, like I said, do what we think that they need to do to win. But I kind of want to have a little prequel to this. I want to say something to the people that watch this, because it's something that's really been ticking me off a lot lately. If you're an MMA fan, stop saying that Conor has no chance. Do you really think that Conor hasn't been training with pro boxers for years? Tito Ortiz, back in the early 2000s, had pro boxers walking with him to the ring. Do you think these guys aren't training with pro boxers? I was never even close to a pro level in MMA, and guess what? I've been in the ring with a pro boxer. Do you really think that they're not doing anything?
Yeah.
Stop it. You're being silly. Okay, I just had to say that. So, Conor...
I agree.
This thing on? But Conor, he's got the best chance to finish it. I don't see, in my mind, I can't envision any scenario that he wins the decision. You're in the boxing world, there's a long history of corruption, bad decisions with the Pacquiao fight just recently, all kinds of stuff that comes into play. I don't see any...
That's too soon.
Bringing stuff back from the first podcast. I don't see any scenario that he can win a decision. For me, Conor needs to come in, he needs to be Conor, he needs to be unpredictable, he needs to switch stances, he needs to be throwing punches from long, looping areas that maybe Mayweather hasn't seen before. I don't know if he can bring in guys to train with that are going to be able to throw the punches from the hips like Conor does. We don't have any footage of Conor boxing. It's not something that the camps have put out there for whatever reason, trolling purposes, whatever it may be. But all we can do is go by what he's done in his fights. And, everybody wants to bring up the Diaz fight. And it's a valid thing. The first Diaz fight was short-term for both of them. He had to take it at 170 pounds because Nate wasn't close to the 155-pound division, which is where the fight was supposed to occur. So he took it on short term. The Diaz brothers have been boxing with professionals forever. Once again, MMA guy, boxing with professionals. They've had professionals in their camps. They've sparred with guys forever.
Andre Ward.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got a lot of experience boxing there, and I feel like Conor got tired, and Nate was able to put his boxing to use. I feel like that's what led to the finish in the first fight was Nate landing punches on the feet. The jab was so hard and so effective, but that's a 170-pound guy at weigh-in time. So Conor was preparing for 155. Yes, he weighed 170, but that's probably what Conor walked in there at. Mm-hmm. Who knows what Nate Diaz walked in there at? He's a taller, longer fighter. He cut weight to make 170, so I'm sure he went back up. I would say that Conor probably stayed around 170. Mm-hmm. So then you flash forward to the rematch, and I thought Conor picked him apart on the feet. He dropped him several times. That this was when Conor was able to actually prepare to fight at 170. He was able to put on weight. He made the cut to 170. I'm sure that Diaz still probably weighed more than him, but I mean, I really think that he put it on Diaz in the second fight. You know, dropping him and everything like that. As I mentioned before, on my social media and stuff like that, Conor really won me over in the Aldo fight. He did exactly what he said he was going to do. It's so prophetic and everything like that. But I was blown away more so than the Aldo fight against Eddie Alvarez.
Oh, yeah.
Because Eddie Alvarez has good boxing. He's been in the ring with some of the best fighters on the planet. I mean, period. His boxing has always been on point. He's always been able to take a beating and all of the above. I mean, he's a guy that's won a Bellator title, a Dream title, and then a UFC title. And as Brennan Schaub would say, that puts him on the Mount Rushmore of the 155-pound class. So he's definitely a guy that's been around. He's a guy that's got good boxing. He's a guy that has good chin, that's been around, that's fought everybody, and Conor blasted him. It was like no competition, and it was mainly with boxing.
Yeah, he held his hands behind his back.
Yeah, he used incredible head movement. He threw from angles that Alvarez has probably never seen before. Alvarez even said, "I'm going to come in." Basically, he said the game plan was come in there and wrestle him, and that's what I thought was going to happen.
Yeah.
But something about the aura of Conor brings it out in people to where they want to stand with him or whatever it may be, and he stood with them, and he got just starched. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. I've watched Eddie Alvarez for a long time in Bellator fight Michael Chandler, which I think is one of the best 155-pounders on the planet. And, you know, he was just completely outclassed. Conor's hands were so fast, so precise. His head movement was so perfect. Everything was coming from angles that, you know, he couldn't even see.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's what he needs to do in this fight. He needs to dip in and out like he does, changing stances, everything like that, and he needs to throw punches from these weird angles. He doesn't need to. He needs to finish Floyd. He can't go to decision, but he still has to pick his spots. He can't go out there guns blazing and expect to continue for rounds. I mean, this is a boxing match. He's going to have to continue the volume no matter what happens. So I don't want to dive too much farther into that part of it because I really want to kind of go into that as far as how I think the fight breaks down. So I'll let you kind of give your thoughts on Conor.
Well, it's the same as what he's saying. I agree with everything he's saying, and Conor's going to have to go in there and be super unorthodox and show Floyd some stuff that he's never seen before. Maybe kind of getting his head a little bit, which we know Conor can do that. Especially on fight day in the ring, he can do that. And he's going to have to just do that. He's going to have to switch stances, throw stuff that Floyd can't see, stuff from weird angles. You can't mimic that. You can't mimic Floyd or Conor's style in training or sparring. You just can't. It's hard to find a guy that can do that. And I think even changing levels, the levels that he's fighting at, is going to be
interesting.
Is going to be a big.
As far as you know, Mayweather's only fought guys that have been in traditional stance, and like Conor's got more of a karate or Thai stance as far as being really far.
Yeah, and he could stand up and maybe use his reach for jabs, and also he can get down here and throw some weird punches that Floyd's never seen before. And I agree with you. The only way that Conor wins this fight is by putting a stop to it, setting Floyd down. And as Dana White said, Conor, if he lands and hurts Floyd, he's going to go in for the kill.
Yeah. He said if Conor hits you, he hurts you. If he hurts you, he finishes you.
Yeah, and that's I could see it going that way. And I mean that's my point on it. That's my view.
Okay, so as far as what I think is going to happen, once again, everybody that says Conor has no chance, blah blah blah. First of all, Floyd is 40 years old. He hasn't knocked anybody out in eons. He's got damaged hands. Nobody knows where his head's at. I see his Instagram pages. It's not training. It's strip clubs, an occasional kid picture,
and maybe a picture of money.
Yeah, it's nothing about training. Who knows where his head's at? He's like I said, he's 40 years old. He's gonna have ring rust. Conor's been active. It's not been in boxing, but he's still been active. He's been still training with guys that are this. And from the time that he beat Eddie Alvarez, he's been talking about this fight. He took time off to have his child, but at the same time, he was talking about this fight. He was doing boxing training and everything like that. So that that's kind of how I want to. It's not the Floyd Mayweather of old.
No.
If this was Floyd Mayweather in his prime, and we were talking about this, and the people said he had no chance, and Floyd was still had enough power to knock people out, stuff like that, I would be more understanding of what they're saying. But he's 40 years old, man, and he hasn't been fighting. He needs money. I saw what happened when Tyson came back and he needed money.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I think Floyd's at as far as the chance that he has, or people saying that Conor has no chance. So what I think is going to happen. I said this on social media before. T.J. Dillashaw sparred with Lomachenko. Lomachenko's pound for pound king right now, and it took Lomachenko a long time to figure out what exactly Dillashaw was going to do.
Took like 4 rounds, didn't it?
Yeah, and they said up to 6, man.
Yeah.
And there's actually video of it now. I haven't watched it. It was just I just saw it being put on there the other day, and I'm not sure if it's legit or not. But I'm just taking this from what I kind of heard in the MMA and boxing community. So, what Conor needs to do? He needs to realize that he's younger. He hits harder. He's got more of a mystique about him as far as everybody knows what Floyd's going to do. Nobody knows what Conor's going to do as far as game plan or anything.
He's unorthodox.
Yeah. So he needs to come in there. He needs to switch stances. He needs to stay long. He needs to reach his hands out like he does in MMA. I mean, I don't know if you've ever sparred with anybody that does that, but when they're reaching their hands out, it's going to throw off everything. It's going to throw off your distance. It's going to throw off you being able to try to throw punches because you got a hand right in front of your face. So he needs to come in there. He needs to be Conor. He needs to be unorthodox. He needs to do all this stuff that he needs to do. He needs to pick his shots, and he needs to be able to get Floyd's timing down early before Floyd gets his timing. So just try to move. The first round, I see it being kind of circling and whatever. I'm not sure that there'll be a whole lot of action other than if Floyd tries to come out and prove a point, he's in trouble.
Yeah.
And I think Floyd's a very smart fighter. I think he's got very smart people around him. I think he's going to want to see what Conor's about. I think he's going to want to see Conor's timing. And, I think Conor is going to be timid at first. He's going to try to get his timing and everything like that. And at some point in time, he's going to start unleashing some bombs, and it could win the round for him. But I don't see a lot of action in the first round. Going into the second to the fourth rounds, this is Conor's time. He needs to get Floyd's timing down. Everybody talks about Floyd's timing, but Conor is doing the same exact thing as far as figuring everything out. He's doing the math in his head. He's trying to figure out what Floyd's doing, and he's trying to land that left hand. And even his right hand apparently has been awesome in boxing. So, to me, he needs to try to figure out a way to cut the ring off using his long stance, his footwork and stuff like that, and get Floyd against the ropes. And that is where a lot of the guys recently have had their success. As far as landing a right hand, nobody can do it. He's defended it against everybody. He knows what their game plan is going to be coming in. He's watched the film on them. He's seen all the stuff Floyd has. And so he's not going to be able to see any of this stuff on Conor. I noticed a lot in the Berto fight and the Manny Pacquiao fight. Those are the ones that I wanted to watch that were the most recent. Pacquiao stuck a couple of those left hands in.
Oh, yeah.
And Andre Berto stuck a couple left hooks in. And so it seems to be his weak side. When he stands against the rope, a lot of times he's up like this, and it defends really well against the right-handed guys. But if Conor's able to move his head into that left hook, he's going to be in trouble. Everybody that thinks that Conor has no chance, you can't look at me and say if Conor lands a clean shot, he is not going to put Floyd down.
He's going to sit him down.
I mean, even if he doesn't sit him down and he just rocks him a little bit, he's going to continue to land punches. And if Floyd's head's not in, I mean, nobody's ever seen what happens when Floyd gets rocked. I mean, he's been rocked less than a handful of times in his career, which is amazing upon itself. But he's not the same guy as he was. He even says he's not the same guy. And I'm not sure that that's not his way of putting it out there just in case something happens. Hey, I'm going to put this out here. I'm not the same guy I was 2 years ago. I'm not the same guy I was 20 years ago. So Conor's time is early. He needs to get exactly what Floyd's game plan is, because Floyd's not going to know what Conor's game plan is for several rounds, because like you said, he's going to be able to switch stances. The level thing is a great point. I see exactly what you're saying. It's something I hadn't thought about. Brendan Schaub, he's somebody that's really close to this fight. He's getting all the Paulie Malignaggi interviews and stuff like that, to where we can kind of see exactly what's going on in the camp. And he kind of mentioned something like that. He said the distance is different from MMA to boxing, which is completely right. And if you add the levels and the distance and the footwork and the switching stances in there, you can see where it'd be very confusing.
It's putting a puzzle together is what it is, because it's two different worlds, and Connor's world has a lot more movement and a lot more distance. And
a lot more things to look for.
Yeah.
Like you got to worry about takedowns, kicks, knees,
clinches,
elbows,
everything.
Yeah, and the clinch is something else. I don't think that the referees are going to have anything to do. Everybody's kind of talked about, what Conor can do in the clinch and stuff like that. I don't see any scenario where Floyd is going to want to clinch with him unless he's hurt, because Conor is obviously going to have a huge advantage of being the taller, stronger, more experienced wrestling guy.
He can sneak some power.
And I honestly think that the referees will break it up the second it happens, because they're going to want to protect their sport, which is understandable. But I don't see the clinch playing as big a factor as what everybody has talked about kind of online. I see it being a Conor playing his game. And look, I'm tired of doubting Conor. I'm not going to do it anymore, man. Yeah. He does everything that he says he's going to do. Why would he? He's making all kinds of money in the UFC. I understand financially why he would want to do this, but he's still hungry. He's still a killer. He wants this. I don't think he would take a fight that he was planning on losing. I think in his mind he honestly believes that he has something that he can do to Mayweather to put him out. And he said it. He said, I know everything he's ever been hit with. I know everything he's ever been hurt with. And I believe him.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's that type of a tactician. I mean, when he talked about Aldo's hand shaking, and he knew that right hand was coming, and then you see him in the locker room practicing exactly what he goes out there and does in 13 seconds, that is mind-blowing. That is a different level. There's never been anybody like this in the sport of MMA. There's never been anybody like this in the sport of boxing. Everything is too traditional. Everything is 1-2s, blah, blah, blah. So I think early and often is Conor's best chance. I think after round 4 or 5 that it's moving to Floyd's game.
Yeah.
I don't know how much Conor is going to be able to sustain himself. Now, that being said, when we want to talk about social media and stuff, Conor's training. He's got the best people in the world. He's got the UFC training center. They block it out. It's only for him. So he's got dietitians. He's got, anybody, movement coaches, boxing coaches.
Olympic boxers he's training with. If people don't know that.
Bring him in. Bring him in.
He's training with Olympic boxers.
The dude that you saw him lifting off the ring with the right uppercut, that's an Olympic boxer.
Yeah.
That's not an MMA fighter.
And a lot of these guys are European, and there's a debate there on how tough a European fighter is, because they have to go through a lot more than an American fighter on building themselves up and getting here.
Yeah. And, I mean, so he's got the best trainers in the world. And you look at his Instagram, it's his son and it's training. He's living this. He believes he can win it. And why would you doubt him? Well, as an MMA fan, why would you doubt him?
Yeah.
I cannot, for the life of me, understand why boxing people are trashing it or MMA people are trashing it. It makes no sense to me. And just to say that he has no chance is mind-blowing to me. It's mind-blowing. That being said, as far as what, it playing out, if it goes Conor's the only one that has a chance to end the fight. The first 4 or 5 rounds, that's Conor's time. He needs to find a way to do it. If it goes past that, to me, it's really hard for me to envision being able to finish Floyd at that point.
Yeah, it's a Floyd decision time if it goes past that.
It's running time. He's gonna start running. He's gonna start hitting just
three punch combos.
Yeah, and Floyd is one of the greatest boxers to ever live.
And really quick.
He's definitely, he's 40 years old. We haven't seen him.
Yeah.
We see him in the bag.
We
see him in the bag, but what is he doing in sparring and stuff? Yeah, that's great. That's great. You can look away. You can hit that's fantastic and all. But what happens when Conor's going to throw him a scud from his hip and it hits you? What happens then? How fast are you then?
An unorthodox young guy.
Yeah, but I mean, Floyd is the best defensive boxer of all time. He's gonna figure out Macgregor. Even though Macgregor's switching stances, he's coming in from different angles. He's changing levels. Whatever he wants to do, Floyd's gonna figure him out. I don't care what anybody says. I'm not naive enough to think that there's no way that he's ever gonna figure Conor out. He is built from the sport. He's been in it from his early life. He's still in it, and he's gonna figure it out. Even though he's older. Nobody knows why he's really doing this fight. If he just needs the money or whatever it may be, he's going to figure him out. And so then, like you said, it's Floyd decision time. And there's no way anybody convinced me, unless Conor knocks him down every round, that Conor's going to win the decision.
Yeah.
There's no way.
That would have to happen. And if Conor does knock him down once, Conor's going to go for the kill.
We know from MMA and from boxing alike, there is no way you can trust the judges, especially not when you're coming to a sport that has a history of corruption, that wants you to lose, that talks bad about you on every interview. There's nobody that talks good about Conor. There's no boxing guys other than Paulie, who's actually been there and sparred with Conor, that is talking good about him. And you know, Paulie, I don't know if people are paying attention to this, but Paulie's saying he's got a game plan. There's a method to the madness, and that's what I said all along. You know, I couldn't figure Conor out in the early days. I was like, man, I don't know if I like this guy or not.
I couldn't stand him at the beginning.
Yeah, I've got an Irish name. I've got Irish heritage. I wanted to like the guy. Boondock Saints is one of my favorite movies of all time. I mean, the list goes on.
I've got a little bit of Irish in me too. If y'all can't see this red beard here,
but you know, it took me a long time to figure out exactly what he was doing, and like you said, I didn't like him at first either. I'm like, who is this guy? Who does he think he is?
He's crazy.
And then you start seeing all of the things that he puts together, and he lands the punch against Aldo, and the light bulb went off for me, and I didn't know if he could win the Diaz fight. I was right on the first one. I told everybody he was going to win the second one. I was like, you're not going to be able to beat this guy twice. He's too smart. He's too much of a tactician. He's had time to put on the weight now. He's going to win. And there's still controversy over that, which I don't understand. I think Conor won. I think it was clear. And then you see what he does at that point to Alvarez. I mean,
he's a pure strategist. He's super smart, and he can put him. A lot of these fighters have people that set up a game plan for him. But not only does he have that, but he sets up his own game plan because he knows his limits and he knows what he can do, and he dedicates his whole life to watching video and training just for that guy, like we brought up earlier, and he really actually goes out and he does it, and it usually works for him, and that's what's impressive about it.
And he is himself. He's not bringing in boxing guys that are trying to change him to do, you know. One of the worst things that can happen in like any sport is you have somebody come in and try to change your mind and change who you are. And he's not letting people do that. Win or lose, he's going to go out on his shield, being himself, doing what got him there. And that's the most important part of it all, because all these boxing guys, they thought that they knew how to do it. And they went in there and they obviously did not know how to do it. So now you've got a guy coming from a different, you know, kind of side of the combat sports that's going to have a different game plan. It's going to be able to do different things that Floyd can't recreate. Now, it's going to be hard for Conor to recreate Floyd in the gym. I mean, people make money just imitating Floyd. And a lot of the boxing guys aren't going to want to help Conor out. So it's going to take a big effort to try to recreate that in the gym. But at the same time, you know, there's no way possible for Floyd to recreate Conor.
No.
Nobody can do it in MMA. Why can anybody do it in boxing?
Yeah, nobody in MMA has sparred or fought against anybody like Conor.
Yeah.
So he's 1 in a million. Really.
Yeah. So my final answer is, the people that say that Conor doesn't have a shot are silly, and I hope you delete all of those posts if one of those left hand lands, because I promise you, 40-year-old Floyd, nobody knows what his chin like, nobody knows where his heart is, nobody knows where his head is. You know, you see the Instagram, you don't know how he's training. Conor's coming. Conor's trying to kill him. Conor's going to try to take his head off. He may not be successful, but to say he doesn't have a chance, to say that he can't hit him and all that stuff is idiotic. He's going to lay hands on him. You're going to see what Floyd has left in him. You're going to see if he's able to move out of the way, and he is truly the greatest of all time, because Conor's young, he's hungry, he's landed punches on a lot of excellent fighters and made them look silly, and he's going to try to do the exact same thing for Floyd. And I think the first 4 or 5 rounds, he's got a legitimate shot to do that. After that, like you said, it's decision time. So that's the 2 scenarios that I can see in my mind. I can't fathom a pick on it. I'll be rooting for Conor. There's no question about that. I've rooted against Mayweather in almost every fight he's ever had, and especially now, and you see this is his time to shine for boxing and for the sport. He's had such a colored past as far as being in trouble, all the things everybody knows about his domestic violence issues and everything else, and he has such a good chance to be kind of this head of boxing and to push the sport forward. and instead all he's doing is talking about money, and you see the stuff that he's posting on Instagram. And at the same time, Conor's bringing all these new guys to boxing, and Conor's actually being a better advocate for boxing right now than Floyd is, because he's putting all of his stuff in training. He's got all his stuff in sparring. Nobody's allowed in that room, so nobody really knows what's happening with Conor. Paulie's not even talking about it, so nobody really knows what's happening, because only the guy that he's sparring and his coaches are allowed in the room. Nobody else is allowed to be in there and film or anything else. So you can see how serious Conor's taking it. Now, who knows if Floyd is?
Yeah, I'm gonna be rooting for Conor as well. Just in the mere fact of he's the hungry guy here. Floyd is taking him into his world. Floyd's just gonna the game plan that I think he's gonna have is just be defensive and land a few more shots. And I'd like to see Floyd try to legitimately place boxing by coming over into Conor's world.
That's not gonna happen.
Yeah, it's never going to happen. But if you think you're a tougher guy, and he said in those press conferences, he didn't mean it. He didn't mean it. He shouldn't mean it. He said in those press conferences, ring, octagon don't matter. And I'd really like to see that, because I'd like to see him eat a leg kick, just one leg kick, just one, and just see how big and bad he is.
Yeah, I would. When we talk about MMA fights, and Cyborg's trying to find a fight, put him in there with Cyborg. See what happens.
Yeah.
We'll see how good your boxing is then.
Let's see how you react to an armbar.
Yeah. So, in the thing about, like you're talking about a real fight, it's never going to happen.
No,
it's a fantasy.
Yeah.
The only way that it could ever happen is if Floyd really needed money that badly.
And props to James Toney for actually coming.
Yeah, props to James Toney.
He got in there with Randy Couture, one of the greatest light heavyweights and heavyweight fighters.
Yeah.
I mean,
but James Toney did a disservice to both sports, because I don't think he trained.
Yeah, I mean that was a disgrace, but props to him for actually coming and putting.
There's a reason that Floyd has bodyguards.
Yeah.
And Conor doesn't.
Yeah.
That's all you need to say. And even in the press conference, he kind of tried to sick his bodyguards over there.
Big goons.
And the next thing you know, you got a bunch of MMA guys like, that's not a good idea, bro. Yeah. You got Danaher right there, and all those guys that are. I can't even remember the guy's name. The blonde-headed dude. He's a jiu-jitsu guy, but he was right there, and it wouldn't have went well for the bodyguard.
No.
So yeah. But anyway, so I feel like we're both on the same page with what we think can happen with that. I feel like we're both going to be rooting for Conor. I feel like a lot of the MMA guys will be rooting for Conor. I feel like that saying Conor has no chance and that you're pulling for Conor, I don't think you're doing any type of service for MMA at all. He does have a chance, and it's a legitimate chance. This is not Floyd Mayweather. Pound for pound king. This is 40-year-old Floyd Mayweather that needs money, and 28-year-old Conor McGregor, double title holder in the UFC, that's coming to take his head off. And so, you can say that you're rooting for Conor, but don't say that he has no chance. That's just doing a disservice to everyone. It's doing a disservice to the fight, call it a circus fight and all that stuff. I mean, it's going to be insanity. Everybody's going to buy it. Quit acting like you're not going to buy it. It's going to surpass Pacquiao fight, the Pacquiao Mayweather. It's going to go so far beyond that. Everybody's going to be watching it. Everybody's going to be talking about it. It might be the biggest sporting event of our life. I hope not. I hope something else like this comes along. But, in my 30 years on this planet, especially, since I've been watching combat sports, this is by far the biggest thing to me. Yeah. If maybe Pacquiao Mayweather, if they had fought in their prime, would have been bigger. But, I mean, this is as big as it gets. It's not going to get any better. Please stop taking something away from this fight. I mean, these guys are doing it for a reason. We don't know what the reasons are, but I can guarantee you Conor's reason is to go in there and take his head off, to cement his legacy forever. If Conor McGregor goes in there and lands one left hand against Floyd Mayweather, he's a made man for life. For life. And if Floyd wins, they're like, you beat an MMA guy. Yeah, so you got two different guys going for two different things. I don't feel like anybody should be trashing at boxing or MMA guys. I like both sports, and I think it's doing a disservice to everything to put a bad name to it. So, all right, so can I move to some stuff, breaking news moving forward? We kind of hit on it a little bit earlier, but Dana basically said that GSP versus Bisping is now going to happen after Woodley's performance. GSP was not impressed with his performance at all.
I've got a pretty good GSP, and I'll break that out right now. I was not impressed by your performance.
Yeah, it was. I don't think anybody was impressed by Tyrone, as we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
It's just very unfortunate, but to me, being a GSP fan, this is kind of the best matchup he has as far as the top of the middleweight or top of welterweight. I feel like this is best case scenario. It's going to make more money than Woodley, GSP, and I feel like GSP could have a pretty good game plan and be able to beat Bisping. Once he beats Bisping, I feel like he should get the heck out of the division because there's just killer stuff at the top there.
Division.
But to me, much more exciting fight than Woodley. I love GSP, been a GSP fan since almost the first day, and can't wait for this fight. I really enjoyed seeing Bisping win the belt. I never liked Bisping. Kind of coming up, I feel like that it was one of those things that happened with Rockhold that kind of Rockhold had to kind of eat a lot of his words and stuff like that. And it was just so great to see a guy that has been in there with everyone at 185 pounds. That has done everything but win a title.
And 205.
Yeah, and 205. The whole Hendo rematch, that was kind of unfortunate. And, I think that this could be, if Bisping wins this fight, it could be his defining moment. But I think GSP coming back, only preparing for Bisping, I feel like Bisping could still be a bigger guy, but I feel like GSP is going to be more explosive, probably have a little bit better game plan. As far as what he wants to do, a little bit more dynamic game plan, because I feel like that as far as the striking world of 185 pounds, Bisping presents less of a threat as opposed to, Romero or Whitaker or Weidman or any of those guys. So it's kind of the best case scenario striking wise. Bisping's, he's been pretty successful with his wrestling in the past, even though he had some troubles with it kind of early on. But I feel like the GSP could have a really good game plan coming in that, and I feel like it's the kind of the best case scenario for everybody because Whitaker's still banged up. So what are you going to do with Bisping? Woodley's had such a poor performance. You really need somebody that's a name to put in there with GSP coming back. So I'm really excited for it. I don't see why people would dog this fight at all, especially not after the Woodley fight.
No, if you want GSP to come back, this is the only fight really that he can take, and it's actually going to
unless it was a tune-up fight.
Yeah, unless it was a tune-up fight. But do you really want to see GSP come back against somebody and it just be a tune-up fight and him clearly win? You want? I always wanted to see GSP against somebody different.
Yeah.
Different division.
The whole world was cheated out of the GSP Anderson fight. The whole world was. When Anderson was in his prime, he had wrecked everyone in the division. GSP was basically doing the same thing at 170 pounds. With the new ownership, it would have happened. With the old ownership, it did not. I feel like we were cheated out of that. I feel like GSP would have had a really good chance, obviously, by taking him down, putting him on his back, and Anderson would have had a great chance standing up. So it was a very complex fight. We all got cheated out of this. And this is kind of late. It's a super fight that I want to see. It's really intriguing because you never have a 70 and 85 pound champion before. GSP could be the first guy. To me, if I was GSP manager or coaches, I would say we're going to have a great game plan for this fight. We're going to bulk you up a little bit. We're going to beat Bisping. We're going to get you back down to 70. We're going to have a great game plan for that, and we're going to try to beat Woodley, and then we're going to wait for Conor to come back.
And there you go.
There's the super fight. There's the super fight.
Yeah.
And if the UFC's smart, that's the way that they're going to go about it. It kind of, once again, it throws the whole division into limbo. But, you still have Whitaker there, who's the interim champ. And once Whitaker heals up, regardless of what happens, you can have Whitaker fight whoever, whether it be the winner of GSP versus Bisping, which I hope not. I hope GSP gets that win, goes back down to his own division, and like I said, tries to put a game plan together like that to be able to try to be successful in multi-divisions. So, but really looking forward to that. The Korshkov, go ahead.
Njokuani.
Yeah. That's a fight that I'm really looking forward to in the future. We're not going to do a podcast on that card, obviously, but kind of wanted to break that down, give our picks on that. By the way, forgot to tell you guys, we both went 5-3 on the picks earlier.
Yeah,
so keep up with that. We'll keep up with it as well. And I guess we're going to make another one here. but Korshkov, you know, I feel like had a great run after losing that first title attempt. I think he won 6 straight. Looked fantastic against Benson Henderson. You know, I feel like that was probably the eye-opening fight for a lot of fans that hadn't really got to see him a lot. He just ragdolled Henderson for 5 rounds, basically. You know, I feel like he was winning the fight completely in the Lima fight in the rematch, and then Lima caught him, and that's all it takes. Just like the DC fight, it only takes one shot, and you're done. And I really feel like he's so young. I think he's only 26. That this is kind of gonna be his resurgence back towards the title. I feel like he does everything that Chidi does, just a little bit better, and I feel like he's going to be a bigger fighter. So, you know, for me, I'm going to go with Korshkov in that fight. I think he's going to be able to find a way. He's just so dynamic as far as the things he's able to do, get the takedowns, knock you out on the feet, you know, whatever. He's going to be able to dictate it. I think he'll be bigger. I think he'll be a more powerful fighter. You know, Chidi's obviously got the one punch knockout power and stuff like that, you know, but I don't think he's been fighting top quality guys.
Right.
You know, this could be his way to propel himself towards those top tier guys, but I really feel like Dick Korshkov is going to get the job done by dictating it really however he wants, you know.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that Korshkov's a lot more well-rounded than Njokuani. And I think that, like you said, he's got the one-punch knockout power, but that can be.
So does Korshkov, though.
Yeah. Korshkov has that, and it can be taken away if he takes him down, ground and pounds him, something like that, or standing up.
Yeah, because that's basically what he did in the first Lima fight. He was able to take him down and kind of control him and pound him.
Korshkov easily can take this fight and control it, so that's why I'm going to pick him.
Yeah, they're both nasty fighters. I just think Korshkov has fought the more elite guys, and I think he's got more experience at this level to be able to pull it off. And I still think that, you know, if he's like me, he's like, man, I was winning every second of that round until I got caught, and I feel like he's going to be hungry enough to try to propel himself back towards that title fight. So, all right, so really going to wrap it up here. Hopefully the next time you'll see us, I think we're going to do a joint podcast on Bellator 183 and UFC 215. They're both around the same time, and we'll also kind of come back and do a recap on the Mayweather versus Macgregor fight. We'll see how silly we are with our thoughts on that as well. And, you know, if kind of like we did with the DC fight, if we're wrong, we're going to tell you.
Oh yeah,
and we'll definitely eat whatever we have to do. I'm not real happy with my 5-3 record last night.
It'd be 6-2.
Yeah, 6-2. Yeah, even if I just didn't pick Burrell, you know, I could have been right there as well. So, but we'll definitely come back and we'll be honest with our evaluations of that fight, and then also make some picks for the Bellator and the UFC card. Neither one of them really stood out to us to do its own podcast, but I feel like doing a joint one, kind of breaking both of those down, we should be able to give.
We'll have plenty to talk about.
Some good content, yeah. So we appreciate you guys for watching this time. Like I said before, if you enjoyed what you've seen, please go find us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and also like and subscribe to the page on YouTube. We appreciate it so much, and we will see you the next go around.